Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series, where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Hi, this is Andrea from Molly's Bookstore in Melrose, Massachusetts. Today I'm here to interview Cassie Miller, who is the author of Meet Me Under the Lights. Cassie Miller is a former high school English teacher turned elementary librarian. She has two superhero qualities to her. She has a teaching degree from Radford University and library endorsement from the University of Virginia. She wears many hats, but finds her favorites are stage and lighting director, eccentric storyteller, and boy mom. Cassie currently resides in Southwest Virginia with her family and an ever-growing number of cardigans and nerdy bookish t-shirts. The book we're going to talk about is Meet Me Under the Lights. Why do I love this book? There are so many reasons. The first time I read it with my 13-year-old daughter, and she's exactly at that age when middle reading books are a little bit too young for her, but YA is just no. And so this is that exact book that has drama, that has romance, and a love story in there. And it has sports. It has a family fighting another family. It has everything in it, but the romance is clean. So if a grandmother comes to your store and tells you, Sarah wants to read a romance story, well, this one is perfect. You can give it to her and she won't come back and tell you, what did you just give me? No, this one is perfect. And a mom will come like, my daughter tells me she wants to read this book and you're horrified. No, you won't get horrified with this one. This one is perfect. And also you have somebody who loves sports, because a lot of girls love sports and there's nothing written for them. This one is that. A girl who loves drama, but she doesn't, no drama as in they fight each other and no, as in she's a thespian. Well, this has that in there too. A girl who's involved in her town, this has that in there too. So what does this book not have? No, it really has everything. We talked with my daughter about it for so long because we loved every single part of it, how they are active in their community, how they are active in their school, how they are active in their sports, how they have family separation because it even has a military family in it. You can pick a topic of conversation and it has it. So when I was asked to interview Cassie about it and given a couple of questions to ask her, I'm like, oh my God, what can I ask her? I mean, I have so many questions. How can I narrow it down a little bit? Because it was so difficult to narrow it down. So Cassie, welcome and thank you for doing this. I was so excited for this opportunity.
I've done several podcast interviews. I would love a recording of this so that I can keep it and just have that playing on loop. That would be like, that's my walk-up song if I'm going to go to that. Like, geez, Andrea, thank you.
Oh, no. We really loved it, because it's a book that is this positive and without being sugary, it is just positive and a balm to the soul. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Now, I have to really confess that I'm not a baseball person. So
that's okay. No one's perfect. You're okay. We'll forgive you for that.
Also, I'm not a Yankees fan, so
not many are. I've grown up with it my whole life, but I like arguing with people, so I've never minded that. That's okay.
So those were you talk badly about the Red Sox in there. I'm like, oh no, that's not gonna fly in Boston. But like, okay, we forgive you. So tell me, what is your baseball story? How did you come to love it so much that you wrote about baseball?
I love this question. Baseball has been a part of my life literally for as long as I can remember, Andrea. I grew up watching the Yankees because I was born and raised in New York. And in my grandmother's house, you were not allowed in her house unless you were a Yankees fan. So we anytime we were over there, especially during baseball season, which takes place for most of the months of the year, much to my delight, there was usually a Yankees game on in the living room or in her small TV in the kitchen. And everyone in my family just loved baseball. They were always talking about it. And my father loved the sport. And so he would show me and my brother his cards. And when my brother was old enough, he started playing baseball and my dad was coaching. So my childhood truly was spent in one of two places, watching plays and being in my grandparents' costume shop and watching my brother play baseball and my father coach. So that's really where that inspiration for both sides of the story came from. I love baseball. I loved watching my brother play. And as an adult, I'm very blessed because I live in a college town that I can watch college ball. I can go right up the road towards Roanoke, or I can go down towards Pulaski and watch minor league teams play. So I get to surround myself with a sport that I really think is just such a beautiful part of our country's history that I've always loved it and respected it. So I had to write a baseball story. I had to write a theater story because it's part of my core.
That makes a lot of sense. Right? Because I was like, oh, I mean, I love it. I love that it's a sports story. Do you think it would be very, very different if you had written about basketball, say?
For sure. One, I don't know a lot about basketball. So I think the readers would have called me on that BS of like, oh, Cassie clearly doesn't know her stuff. It's funny, someone had posted a review and she had said, I want to know, how did she phrase it? She said, either Cassie's really good at research or she knows her stuff. And I commented in third person, I was like, she knows her stuff. And I'm glad that you thought so. Thanks so much. But that's just the stuff that I was always interested in. And I love to dilly daddle in a lot of stuff. So when I have a hobby or an obsession, I go all in and it just kind of consumes me. So baseball and theater, I don't think I could have ever written about a different sport other than soccer because I played soccer. So maybe one day.
That's great to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of girls play soccer. So that would be wonderful.
Yep.
The next one?
Mm-hmm. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe in a couple from now. We'll see.
So why is Reed a pitcher? Do you think it would be change a lot if, say, he would, and here's where I show my ignorance, if he were a catcher, say, would that make it very different?
Yeah, I think if Reed was any other position, Andrea, it would be a different story. So my brother played center field. He also played in the infield. My brother could play pretty much anywhere you wanted to put him. So I had a lot of experience watching my brother train for different positions. I had a lot of high school students who played in different positions, and my favorite baseball players were from all over the field. But when I really wanted to write this story, and I asked myself, who is the one player, the one position that has that weight on their shoulders more than anybody else? Hands down, it's the pitcher. I mean, it starts and ends with the pitcher. You know, you can talk about defense, you can talk about hitting, but at the end of the day, it's your pitching, it's what's called your bullpen that really does win games. If you don't have depth in your bullpen, in your line of pitchers, Andrea, your team is not going to advance because that pitcher has to make last second, last minute calls. And, you know, he has, I don't know if you knew this, but he has a communication device in his ear that allows his catcher to communicate with him. But at the end of the day, it's the pitcher who can decide the pitch that he's going to throw, how much more he's got in him before his arm is literally dead. So I wanted to have someone who was going to be in the spotlight and have all of that weight on his shoulders. That's a pitcher.
And you gave Reed so many other things to carry on his shoulders because he has the way of not knowing what is happening to his father, of his grandparents potentially losing the farm, of all of his friends' problems.
Yes.
He's carrying so many other things.
Yes.
Why did you give him so many problems? The poor guy.
Well, If I know, but as someone who taught high schoolers for 12 years and who still works with high schoolers, because my husband is a high school band teacher, so I am constantly surrounded by high school kids. These children carry so much more than I ever did as a kid. When I think about the extracurricular work I did, the class loads that I took, I was an advanced student and I got involved in a lot of stuff, but I see these kids not only babysitting their younger siblings, but they're working sometimes 2 and 3 jobs as high school kids. They come from, a lot of them, broken families. So they're bouncing around to different houses. So there was never an option to give it easy for a kid. I think teenagers have it a lot harder than we give them credit for. And I want to be that author that writes realistic teenage fiction. And I to me, that's a complex character. If you have a kid who's just skating through life, that's just not real life for me. Good for them, but the kids that I work with, the kids that I interact with every day, the kid that I was, that's just not real life. So I put a lot on Reed, but I wanted to do that so that if I have a reader who has that equal amount of weight and they saw Reed doing what he loves and being successful at what he loves and losing, but also winning at the same time, I think that's a really powerful message for readers that, yeah, you can have a lot on your plate, but that doesn't mean you can't handle it. You were built to handle it. You just got to work at it. So, yeah.
And
sorry,
I
Reed.
love that he handled it so gracefully. And
yeah, I think he could have taken a lot of different routes for sure. Like his best friend did not handle the pressure well. But for Reed, like you said, I think because family was involved, he had to. I think had the family aspect not been there, this would have been a different story. And it wouldn't have been my story because I like writing stories with multiple generations. Family's important.
Yes, his grandparents were always so present.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you'll see that in my other books as well. There will always be grandparents of some shape or form because that's who I was growing up. My grandparents raised me just as much as my own parents did. So I want to write those stories.
I love that. So there's also, I remember when my kids went to school in Florida, there's always the spaghetti dinners. They were,
I know where you're going with this.
Because I remember every spaghetti dinner we used to go to, how the schools would put it together, and I'm like, spaghetti dinner, okay? But we love them. We never missed out on a single spaghetti dinner.
Of course.
And they're such a staple. I don't know why it's spaghetti dinner, but that's an institution. It's an institution. And when you mentioned the spaghetti dinner, I was like, oh my God, yes, it was so. My daughter, who has grown up in Massachusetts, does not know what spaghetti dinner is, but like in Florida, spaghetti dinners, And so when he was there, I was like, so excited about it. And then, of course, a food fight.
Of course.
I was so excited about it. Have you ever been part of an actual food fight?
100% I have. I have. I was a again, many hats that I wore. I was a summer camp counselor every summer for years. It was a great job. Like you literally got paid to hang out with kids and do crafts and sports all day. Say less. Okay. And yes, despite our best efforts, children often did try to throw food, and they're sneaky about it. And even in the elementary setting where I am now, I have seen some things fly, and I've got good peripheral vision, but I myself have been in some food fights. Yes. In college, believe it or not. Sorry if that, I apologize to Radford University. We did clean up our mess.
So then it's 2 questions, because one is, what food did you go for? And one, during a spaghetti fight, what food would you have gone for?
Okay. So during the actual food fights and I can't believe I'm saying it plural. I feel like such a horrible human. During the food fights that I have had, I remember throwing some rolls. There was a taco bar. I have a memory of shredded lettuce. There was a lettuce thing. I can see the green in my face. Lettuce, there was some shredded lettuce and fruit. I remember throwing some slices, not whole fruit, but there was some cubed watermelon that had some great lift. That was, and very satisfying sound. It was perfect. Perfect.
Not meatballs like in this one. That one must have been like,
meatballs were not there, and I'm Italian, so that was a disappointing thing for me. But if I was in a spaghetti fight, I've thought about this. If I was in a spaghetti fight, it's really going to depend on who else is there. If I've got it out for someone, I'm going to be throwing something hard. I'm going to be going for the garlic. Oh, I don't want to give up the garlic bread. I want to eat the garlic bread. I would go for, I know. I would go for the meatballs. I would definitely be throwing some salad. Like we'd be tossing the whole bowl, let it fly, right? Fireworks of salad. Yeah. And if it was someone that I was just really just not a fan of, I'd try to find some kind of hard dessert, get some cookies or something, some a little more firepower.
I don't know. There used to
Jello.
be
Yeah.
like
Jello would be
Jello.
good. Jello would be gross with spaghetti, but that could work. I like your vision. That would
be, you would spend hours cleaning that. Oh my God. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh yeah. And that was the whole idea. Like you, and again, Italian. So pasta, we must have had that in our house 3-4 times a week. It was cheap, it feeds a lot of people and it stays with you for a long time. But when we would have big family gatherings or a lot of people over for a team thing, you're right. It's often spaghetti, it's pasta, it's lasagna. It's something you can bake ahead of time and it's not going to take too long. So yeah, gotta love spaghetti.
Yeah, those whole things, like all of the fundraisers that they did and everything, it just reminded me of all of that. And I also loved in your book how when the theater burns down, how the whole community comes together and decides to, okay, it's okay, we can do it outside, we don't even need, and how the whole concept of, theater can be anywhere,
Yes, some of the most beautiful productions I've ever seen were not in a theater, but they were in an amphitheater. There is something magical about Shakespeare in the Park.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I adore it. But outdoor theater is just beautiful because you really have to, as an actor and an actress, you're drawing on so many of your skills because you don't have I don't want to say the fail safe, but you don't have the lighting and the sets to kind of bounce off of. You're really having to really pull from that human emotion. And a lot of times those outdoor amphitheaters aren't mic'd. So you have people doing a lot of really good natural breath work and using that diaphragm to really project their voice as naturally as possible. So mad respect for people who do outdoor theater. I think it's beautiful. Theater in general is just very special to me. So.
And why did you choose to make her? I know your background is in lighting, but so is that a little bit of yourself?
It's a bit of both things. So my grandparents, I don't know if I've told you this, Andrea, but my grandparents opened a costume shop in New York in the 1950s, and they built it from the ground up. And their costumes and props were rented out from local community theaters and high schools. And so I have always been drawn to the backstage aspect of theater, the inner workings. I loved watching costumes get sewn, props get made. My mom was big into stage makeup, so she used to show me some of her portfolios. Oh, I don't have a hand for stage makeup, but my mother does. And I loved looking at her old portfolios for that. But when I wrote this story, I knew I wanted a contrast between a character who is under the lights and who chooses to be under the lights and a character who controls them. That was really important to me because Eliza is already under the spotlight enough, being who she is as like town royalty. To me, a person who has that constantly wouldn't choose to act on the stage. She would want to give some of that back in my mind. So I drew from personal experience, yes, from my work with the technical side of theater, but I also wanted it to be a nice contrast between Reed.
I am so jealous because it's something I love. We didn't have a costume shop or anything, but we lived in costume. And to this day, just give me any opportunity to dress up, and I will take it. I'm so jealous.
Why do you think I became an elementary librarian? Like when I was at the high school, I would dress up for different things and they would be like, oh God, Miller's reading the Odyssey today with her freshmen, but they didn't appreciate it. Some of them did. But at the elementary school, you got to be careful with what you dress up in because they just want to touch you. So one year I went as Rainbow Fish and I made this amazing shirt with these like ironed on felt pieces. And I found this cool sequence thing to look like Rainbow Fish, but then the kids kept touching my stomach. I was like, okay, I didn't think this through. But Dave, my husband, laughs at me because my costumes in the closet are getting out of hand. I think I have 5 different colored tutus because with every costume you can wear a tutu.
Yes.
I will fight that to my dying breath. Tutus make everything better.
And wigs, I have a wig collection.
Wigs are fantastic too.
What
yep.
am I, like Beyonce? I mean,
yes, you are. Yes, you are. Be what you want to be. Dressing up is the best.
I understand that. I would not have chosen lighting. I would have gone with costumes.
Mm-hmm. And that could have been fun for sure. Lighting was wonderful for me to learn, Andrea, because I mean, I when I started working with the High School Musical productions where my husband works, I played trumpet in the pit orchestra. So I was a musician first, then I was a stage director, then I was a set director, and then I was a lighting director. And the lighting honestly was my favorite because you're literally painting the stage. You are making people feel something before the members on the stage even open their mouths. And so that was just super special.
And there's so many people who don't even notice it because like I noticed it, for example, at my store. Whenever I have an event, I turn off all the lights and I just put twinkle lights and I put candles and everybody's horrified. Candles in a book. Like, wait, you'll see why. You will see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it really does change the atmosphere and it invites a different level of conversation for sure. Yeah.
And one last question, and this, sure, we're going to give a spoiler alert here because there's a whole fight between the two families. I think I actually skipped a question, but like there's a whole fight between the two families. And they they place a bet over whoever wins gets to keep the baseball field. And in the end, the Fultons come out victorious. And my question to you is, what do you think would have happened if the Crowleys would have won instead of the Fultons? What would have happened to both families? Because both families have a lot at stake with this.
Yes. That's a great question. I think had the Crowleys won, and readers might disagree with me, so this will be interesting, have people messaging me on Instagram or something. I think because Eliza's father invited, or because Reed's father and Eliza's father are going to co-own that stadium in the end, I would like to think that even if Eliza's father had won, I think the same offer would have been given. I do. I think he would have given at least part of the stadium and the earnings and ownership back to the Fultons. And I'll tell you why. Because when Reed got hurt in the fire in the theater, the dad didn't hesitate to move the championship game out almost 2 weeks so that Reed could pitch because he wanted him to have his shot. And to me, it was so important to include that plot bit, that bunny, because it showed that her father had come to an understanding that this family is a good family, that bygones can be bygones. And just because they come from a feuding family that was multiple generations and decades long, doesn't mean that it has to continue that way. I think her father was dealing with grief in his own way. And so I'd like to think that he would have given the Fultons the opportunity to co-own it with him. I do. Yeah.
And the other one was, why did you make it part of the story that the families had to hate each other?
Because Romeo and Juliet is one of the most used tropes. I'm going to give it its own trope because enemies to lovers, I think, has started with Romeo and Juliet. And there's a reason why when you pitch it as Romeo and Juliet, but with baseball, or Romeo and Juliet, but with this, it's an auto buy for so many people because we love drama. We love a good family feud. And for me, my beef with Romeo and Juliet, well, I've got a lot of beef with Romeo and Juliet. It's not my favorite of Shakespeare's plays. But for me, I wanted to write a feud that made sense. And having a baseball deal and money go dirty and having someone buy a stadium out from under someone else just because you know people and you can pay them off, that's the real world. That's capitalism. And I felt like that could be relatable. So it was always going to be enemies to lovers. It was always going to be Romeo and Juliet, just without the depressing ending for me. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, what I like about this one is that you learn to like both families.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Like,
that was important.
It's hard because you're rooting for both of them.
That's what I go for. My next book, which comes out in October, it's a Christmas romance, and yeah, and it's got a love triangle. And I have made it my mission ever since I've read love triangles that are done well and love triangles that aren't done well. I really like writing stories where you root for both. So for me, I'm writing a love triangle. It's already written. I've written a love triangle where I want you to root for both boys because they're both good. Nothing drives me more crazy than when you're told it's a love triangle or it's enemies and there is a clean choice. Why would that person pick anything else? So I like writing stories where you're happy with either.
But then you get sad that the other one gets.
Well, I can also spill that my third book will be about the boy who doesn't get picked. So he will still get his happily ever after. So I've made it my mission for that too. So I've got you. I've got you.
Well, Cassie, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for writing that book. I love it. I'm recommending it to everybody.
Oh, thank you. And thank your daughter for me too. I'm so glad she likes it. Knowing that 13-year-olds and teenagers are reading it and getting excited about it, that's why I wrote it. So thank you so much, Andrea.
This was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!